The champagne glass felt like it weighed 50 pounds in my hand as I watched my wife of 12 years grind against her dance partner like they were auditioning for a porno. The wedding reception was in full swing, and Carla had been attached to Brent Morrison's hip since the moment we walked into the Riverside Country Club. Beautiful couple, aren't they? The elderly woman next to me at the bar nodded toward the dance floor where my wife was letting Brent's hands roam places that should have been reserved for her husband. Which couple would that be? I asked, taking a long sip of overpriced bubbly. She pointed directly at Carla and Brent. Those two, they look so in love. Are they married? Carla threw her head back, laughing at something Brent whispered in her ear. Her red dress had ridden up her thighs, and she made no effort to adjust it. When she caught sight of the old woman pointing, she actually waved. Not really, Carla called out, her voice carrying over the music. Doesn't count when he's boring. The woman looked confused. But I thought you came with... I'm the designated driver, I said, finishing my champagne in one gulp. In my own marriage, apparently. That's when I knew. Not suspected, not worried about, knew. My wife was screwing her law partner, and she didn't give a damn who found out about it. I'm Danny Walsh, 43 years old, owner of Walsh Auto Repair on the south side of our rust bucket town of Millfield. I fix transmissions and change oil for soccer moms who look right through me. Carla's an attorney at Morrison, Blake and Associates. Yeah, that Morrison. She handles divorces for rich people who want to keep their money away from spouses like me. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd met Carla at a community college night class 12 years ago. She was studying for her LSAT, I was taking business management. She was slumming it with the blue-collar crowd. I was trying to better myself. We got married 6 months later in a ceremony that cost more than my annual salary at the time. Back then, she used to laugh at my jokes. She'd wear my old flannel shirts around the house and didn't mind getting grease under her fingernails when she helped me work on cars. That woman disappeared somewhere between her first promotion and the day she started pronouncing my name like it tasted bad. Danny, could you not embarrass me tonight? She'd said in the car on the way to the wedding. These are important people. Try to act like you belong. I belonged about as much as a turd in a punch bowl, and we both knew it. The bride's father took the microphone for a toast. To my daughter Sarah and her new husband Tom, may they always remember that marriage is about partnership, trust, and putting each other first. Carla wasn't listening. She was whispering something to Brent that made him grab her ass right there on the dance floor. A few people noticed, including Jess Hartman, Carla's best friend since law school. Instead of looking shocked, Jess just smiled and raised her glass. That's when the pieces clicked into place. This wasn't a new thing. This was a performance, and I was the only one who didn't know the script. I set my empty glass on the bar and walked toward the dance floor. Time to cut in on my own wife. Mind if I dance with Mrs. Walsh? I tapped Brent on the shoulder. He didn't move, just looked at me like I'd asked to borrow his Porsche. We're in the middle of a song, buddy. Danny, please. Carla's voice had that edge it got when she was annoyed. Can't you see we're busy? Busy? My wife was busy dancing with another man at someone else's wedding, while her husband stood there like an idiot. Just one dance, I said. With my wife. Brent stepped closer, and I caught a whiff of his expensive cologne mixed with Carla's perfume. They smelled like they'd been rubbing against each other for hours. Maybe you should go get some air, Danny. You look a little flushed. The song ended, and couples began switching partners. Carla smoothed down her dress and gave me a look that could freeze hell. Fine. One dance. Then leave us alone. She felt like a stranger in my arms. Stiff, distant, checking over my shoulder to see where Brent had gone. He was at the bar, ordering drinks and chatting with Jess. Having fun? I asked. More than I expected, she said. This place is actually quite nice. Much better than that dump where your sister got married. That dump was our church. Exactly my point. The song was some slow romantic ballad about forever love and growing old together. Carla kept time by tapping her nails against my shoulder, each tap like a tiny hammer blow. You know, I said, that old woman at the bar asked if you and Brent were married. Carla's tapping stopped. What did you tell her? Nothing. You answered for yourself, said it doesn't count when someone's boring. Oh, that, she laughed, but it sounded forced. I was just being silly. You know how I get after a few drinks. Do I? The song ended, and she immediately stepped away from me. I'm going to powder my nose. Try to mingle, Danny. Make some friends. She walked off toward the bathroom, her hips swaying in that red dress. Brent intercepted her halfway there, and they disappeared together down a hallway marked private. I stood alone on the dance floor while couples swirled around me. The bride and groom were in their own little world, staring into each other's eyes like they'd just discovered fire. That used to be us. Once upon a time, in a galaxy far, far away. You okay, man? I turned to find Ray Kowalski, my old boxing coach from the gym downtown. He was wearing an ill-fitting suit and looking as out of place as I felt. "Ray, what are you doing here?" "Sarah's my niece. Her mom's my sister." He nodded toward the bride. "You look like someone just pissed in your cornflakes." "Something like that." Ray followed my gaze toward the hallway where Carla and Brent had vanished. "Ah, wife troubles." "You could say that." "Want some advice from an old man who's been married 3 times?" "Shoot." When a woman stops caring what you think, the marriage is already over. Question is, what are you going to do about it? Before I could answer, Carla and Brent emerged from the hallway. Her lipstick was gone, and his hair was messed up. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. "I think I'm going to go get some air," I said. "Good idea. Clear your head." "But Danny?" Ray grabbed my arm. "Whatever you decide to do, be smart about it. Don't give them any ammunition." I walked outside to the parking lot, where Brent's silver Porsche was parked next to my 10-year-old Ford pickup. The contrast was about as subtle as a brick to the face. That's when I noticed the security camera mounted on a pole nearby, its red light blinking in the darkness. For a moment, I considered keying that pristine paint job or slashing his tires. But Ray's words echoed in my head, "Be smart about it." Instead, I pulled out my phone and took a picture of the license plate. Then I walked around to the passenger side, where the camera couldn't see me, and let the air out of his rear tire. Not slashed, not damaged, just flat. The red light on the security camera kept blinking as I walked back toward the reception hall. I wondered if I just crossed a line I couldn't uncross. Inside, the party was winding down. Carla was nowhere to be seen, but Jess was at our table, scrolling through her phone. "Where's my wife?" I asked. Jess looked up with fake innocence. "Oh, hi, Danny. She went home. Said she had a headache." "She left without me?" "She asked me to tell you. Figured you could catch a ride with someone else." Jess's smile was all teeth and no warmth. You know how Carla gets when she doesn't feel well? Yeah, I knew exactly how Carla got. And I was starting to understand that I'd been played for a fool longer than I wanted to admit. I called a cab and went home to an empty house. Carla's car wasn't in the driveway, and her side of the bed was still made when I finally fell asleep around 3 a.m. Chapter 2. Evidence: I woke up to an empty house and the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. 7:30 a.m., and Carla still wasn't home. The text message was from her. "Stayed at Jess's. Didn't want to wake you. Home later." Right. Jess lived in a studio apartment across town. Barely enough room for one person, let alone overnight guests. But I wasn't supposed to know that, was I? I made coffee and tried to pretend this was normal. Tried to convince myself that maybe she really did have a headache. Maybe she really did crash at her friend's place. Maybe I was being paranoid and jealous and all the other things she'd accused me of over the past few months. Then her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. She'd left it behind. Carla never went anywhere without her phone. It was like a third arm to her, constantly checking emails and texts and social media. The fact that it was sitting here, forgotten, told me everything I needed to know about how distracted she'd been when she left. The screen lit up with a text message preview. "Last night was incredible. Can't wait to." The sender was listed as B with a heart emoji. My hands were shaking as I picked up the phone. I knew her passcode, our anniversary, which apparently meant more to me than it did to her. The lock screen opened, and I saw the full message. "Last night was incredible. Can't wait to see you again tonight? Same place?" I scrolled up through their conversation, and my stomach dropped into my shoes. Weeks of messages. Photos I didn't want to see. Plans for meetings at the Riverside Motel on Route 9. Details about when I'd be working late at the shop. There was even a photo from last night. Carla and Brent in what looked like a hotel room, both of them half-dressed and grinning at the camera. The timestamp showed 11:47 p.m., about 20 minutes after she'd supposedly left the wedding with a headache. I sat down hard in one of our kitchen chairs, the phone still in my hands. 12 years of marriage, and this is what it had come to. My wife was screwing her business partner and documenting it like a vacation. The worst part wasn't even the cheating, it was the casual cruelty of it all. The way she'd humiliated me in public, the way her friends were in on it, the way she'd made me feel crazy for suspecting what was right in front of my face. I forwarded the most damning messages to my own phone, then deleted the evidence from her sent folder. If she wanted to play games, I could learn the rules. The front door opened around 9 a.m. Carla walked in wearing the same red dress from the wedding, her hair a mess and her makeup smeared. She looked like exactly what she was, a woman who'd spent the night in someone else's bed. "Morning," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Sorry about last night. I felt awful." "I can see that. I held up her phone. You forgot this. A flash of panic crossed her face before she got it under control. Thanks. Did anyone call? Just Brent. Something about meeting tonight. Same place, apparently. The color drained from her cheeks. Danny, I can explain. Can you? Because I'd love to hear this explanation. She sank into the chair across from me, suddenly looking older than her 41 years. Well, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. The question is, how long has it been going on? Danny? How long, Carla? She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. When she finally looked up, there was something almost like relief in her eyes. 6 months. 6 months. Half a year of lies and sneaking around and making me feel like I was losing my mind. 6 months of coming home to a wife who flinched when I touched her and found excuses to work late every night. Why? I asked. Because you're not enough, she said, and the honesty of it hit me like a physical blow. You were never enough, Danny. I thought you might grow into something more, but you didn't. You're still the same small-town mechanic you were when I met you. And he's enough? He's ambitious. He's going places. He doesn't smell like motor oil and talk about carburetors at dinner parties. I built a business from nothing. I employ 6 people. I own this house. In Millfield, she said, as if the name left a bad taste in her mouth. In this pointless town where the biggest excitement is the annual corn festival. Brent's opening a branch office in Chicago. He asked me to go with him. As what? His business partner or his mistress? As his wife. The words hung in the air between us like a verdict. She wasn't just cheating on me, she was replacing me. So what now? I asked. Do we get lawyers? Divide up the assets? Pretend we were ever happy? I already have a lawyer, she said. Brent's handling it. He says I'm entitled to half of everything, including the business. Of course he was handling it. Of course, he'd already figured out how to profit from destroying my marriage. The business I'd built with my own hands, the house I'd bought with money earned by crawling under cars and fixing other people's problems, half of it was going to the man who'd been screwing my wife. Get out, I said. Danny, get out of my house. Go stay with your boyfriend. But don't come back here expecting sympathy or forgiveness or any of the things a real wife might deserve. She stood up slowly, smoothing down her wrinkled dress. I'll send someone for my things. Make sure it's not him. If I see Brent Morrison on my property, I won't be responsible for what happens. Are you threatening him? I'm promising you that I have limits, and you've already crossed most of them. She walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. For what it's worth, I never meant for it to happen this way. Yeah? Well, it did happen this way, and now we all have to live with the consequences. After she left, I sat in my empty kitchen and tried to figure out what those consequences might be. I had copies of her text messages, which might help in divorce court. I had a business that was probably about to be picked apart by lawyers, and I had a rage burning in my chest that felt like it might consume everything in its path. My phone rang. Ray Kowalski. You okay, kid? You looked pretty rough last night. She's leaving me, Ray. For her business partner. Ah, shit. I'm sorry. The worst part is, everyone knew. At the wedding, at her office, probably half the town, I was the only one who didn't get the memo. What are you going to do? I looked around my empty house, at the wedding photos on the mantel and the life we'd built together that was now crumbling around me. I honestly don't know. You want some advice? Sure. Don't do anything stupid while you're angry. Anger makes you sloppy. But don't let them walk all over you either. There's a difference between being smart and being a doormat. What's that supposed to mean? It means when you're ready to hit back, make sure it counts. And make sure you don't end up in jail for it. After I hung up, I went out to the garage and worked on an old Mustang I'd been restoring. Physical work helped clear my head, and I needed to think. Carla and Brent had made their move. Now it was my turn. But Ray was right. I needed to be smart about it. Whatever I did, it had to be legal. It had to be devastating, and it had to be permanent. I just had to figure out what that looked like. Chapter 3. The fallout word travels fast in a town like Millfield. By Monday morning, everyone at Murphy's Diner knew that Carla Walsh had left her husband for her fancy lawyer boyfriend. By Tuesday, the story had grown legs. Depending on who was telling it, I was either a saint who'd been wronged or a loser who couldn't keep his woman happy. I preferred the saint version, personally. The first casualty was my friendship with Mike and Jennifer Chen, a couple I'd known since high school. Mike owned the hardware store downtown, and Jennifer taught at the elementary school. We'd been having dinner together every Friday night for the past 3 years. Jennifer called Wednesday morning to cancel this week's dinner. I'm really sorry, Danny, but this whole situation is just awkward. Awkward how? Well, Carla's our friend too, and we don't want to take sides or make things worse by what? By treating me like a human being. That's not fair. You know we care about you. But Jennifer plays tennis with Carla at the country club, Mike said, apparently having taken the phone. We can't just pretend this isn't happening. I'm not asking you to pretend anything. I'm asking you to be my friends. We are your friends. But we're also Carla's friends. And Brent's a good guy, Danny. He's not the villain here. The phone went quiet for a long moment. He's screwing my wife, Mike. Your marriage was over long before Brent came along. Everyone could see it. Everyone could see it. There was that phrase again. Everyone except me, apparently. So that's it? 12 years of friendship down the drain because it's awkward? It's not forever, Jennifer said, back on the line. Just until things settle down, once the divorce is final and everyone's moved on. Don't call me again, I said, and hung up. Thursday brought a similar conversation with Tom and Sarah Bradley. Yes, the same Sarah whose wedding had been the scene of my public humiliation. Tom worked at the bank where I had my business accounts. Look, Danny, we feel terrible about what happened at our wedding, Sarah said when she called. But we're having a barbecue this weekend, and we invited Carla and Brent before we knew about your situation. My situation? The separation. The divorce proceedings. Tom says Brent's been very discreet about the whole thing. Discreet? He was groping my wife on your dance floor. That's not how we saw it. They were just dancing, being friendly. Right, friendly, the way a dog is friendly with a fire hydrant. There's no need to be crude, Danny. We're trying to handle this delicately. Delicately would have been telling me my wife was cheating instead of letting me find out by watching her dry hump her boyfriend at your reception. Sarah's voice got that tight, condescending tone, that rich, people use when they're explaining things to the help. We didn't know anything for certain. And it's not our place to interfere in other people's marriages. But it is your place to uninvite me from social events? We're not uninviting you. We're just postponing your invitation until things are less complicated. I hung up on them, too. By Friday, the pattern was clear. Carla and Brent had money, status, and connections. I had grease under my fingernails and a failing marriage. In the social calculus of Millfield's upper crust, I was the liability. The only person who didn't abandon me was my sister Trina, and that was mainly because she loved drama more than she loved social climbing. They're all a bunch of fake assholes anyway, she said over beer and pizza at my kitchen table Friday night. You're better off without them. Easy for you to say. You didn't just lose half your friends in 1 week. Those weren't your friends, Danny. Friends don't drop you the minute your life gets messy. Trina was 2 years younger than me and worked as a dispatcher for the sheriff's department. She'd never married, never had kids, and never pretended to be anything other than what she was, a working-class woman with a mouth like a sailor and loyalty that ran deeper than family ties. What are you hearing around town? I asked. About what you'd expect? Half the people think Carla's a cold-hearted bastard who traded up for a better meal ticket. The other half think you're a loser who drove her away by being boring. What do you think? I think Carla always thought she was better than the rest of us. And I think Brent Morrison is a slimy piece of shit who saw an opportunity and took it. That's not exactly legal advice. You want legal advice? Don't do anything permanent. Everything else is fair game. Saturday morning brought an unexpected visitor. Eddie Santos, one of my mechanics, knocked on my door at 8 a.m. with a cup of coffee and a worried expression. Boss, we need to talk. Eddie was 26, fresh out of technical college, and the closest thing to a son I'd ever had. He was also the only person who worked for me who knew anything about computers beyond checking email. What's up? It's about the business. Mrs. Walsh came by yesterday with some lawyer. Not Morrison, some other guy. They wanted to look at the books. My stomach dropped. What did you tell them? Nothing. I said they'd have to talk to you. But Danny, they were asking about assets, inventory, customer lists. They want to know how much the place is worth. She's moving fast. There's something else. I did some checking online, and Morrison's firm has a reputation for nasty divorce cases. They specialize in taking guys to the cleaners. How nasty? Eddie pulled out his phone and showed me a website. Look at this. Morrison, Blake, and Associates. Protecting your interests in high-conflict divorce. They've got testimonials from women who walked away with everything. I read through the testimonials. Wives who'd gotten the house, the business, the kids, and alimony. Ex-husbands who'd been left with nothing but debt and restraining orders. Jesus. It gets worse. I found some news articles about Morrison. 3 years ago, he represented a woman whose husband owned a construction company. By the time the divorce was final, the husband had to sell the business to pay her settlement. He ended up working as a foreman for the guy who bought his own company. What's your point, Eddie? My point is that these people don't just want to divorce you. They want to destroy you. I handed him back his phone. So what do you suggest? Fight back. But not in court. You'll lose there. Morrison's got better lawyers and deeper pockets. You need to get creative. Creative how? Eddie grinned, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. You know what Morrison's weakness is? He's arrogant. He thinks he's smarter than everyone else, especially guys like us. That's going to be his downfall. I'm listening. Give me a few days to do some research. I've got some ideas, but I need to check a few things first. After Eddie left, I spent the rest of Saturday thinking about what he'd said. Carla and Brent thought they held all the cards. They had the money, the connections, the legal expertise. But they also had something else, secrets. And in a small town like Millfield, secrets were currency. I just had to figure out how to spend mine. Sunday morning, I drove past the Riverside Motel on Route 9. Brent's Porsche was parked outside room 237, right next to Carla's BMW. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. I pulled into the parking lot and took out my phone. Time to start documenting everything. If they wanted to play hardball, I'd show them what a real fight looked like. The red light on my phone's camera blinked as I recorded their cars, the room number, the timestamp. Evidence for later. As I was pulling out of the parking lot, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stop following us, or we'll get a restraining order. I texted back, public parking lot, public road, public motel. See you in court. The game was officially on. Chapter 4. Allies and Enemies. Monday morning brought the first real surprise in this whole mess. I was opening up the shop when a woman I didn't recognize walked through the front door. She was about 35, blonde, well-dressed, but not flashy, pretty in a wholesome Midwestern way. Are you Danny Walsh? Depends who's asking. My name is Maya Rodriguez. I think we should talk. The name didn't ring any bells, but something about her tone made me pay attention. About what? About Brent Morrison, and what he did to both of us. I led her back to my office, a cramped space behind the service bays that smelled like coffee and motor oil. She sat down across from my desk and got straight to the point. Brent and I were engaged 2 years ago. He left me for a married woman, a client of his firm. Sound familiar? It sounded very familiar. You're his ex-fiancée. I'm the woman who found out that Brent Morrison is a serial cheater who gets off on destroying marriages. Your wife isn't his first affair, Danny. She's just his latest. Maya opened her purse and pulled out a manila folder. I've been watching him for 2 years, waiting for the right moment to make him pay. When I heard about you and Carla, I figured maybe we could help each other. She spread photos across my desk. Brent with different women at different hotels, credit card statements showing payments to escort services, text messages that made the ones between him and Carla look tame. He's got a pattern, Maya explained. He targets unhappy wives, usually clients going through difficult times. He seduces them, convinces them to leave their husbands, then moves on to the next one. The only reason he's sticking with Carla is because she's a partner in the firm. She's useful to him professionally. How do you know all this? Because I used to be a private investigator before I went back to school for nursing, and because I never got over what he did to me. I studied the photos more carefully. Some were clearly taken with a telephoto lens from a distance. Others looked like they'd been shot through windows or from parked cars. This is a lot of surveillance work. How long have you been following him? On and off for 2 years. I know it sounds crazy, but he destroyed my life, Danny. I lost my job, my apartment, most of my friends, all because I believed his lies about leaving his wife. He was married when you were engaged. Separated, or so he told me. Turns out he was still living with her and telling her the same stories about me that he's probably telling Carla about you. I leaned back in my chair, trying to process this information. So what do you want from me? I want to help you destroy him. Legally, professionally, socially. I want to make sure he never does this to another woman. And what do you get out of it? Maya's smile was cold as winter. Revenge. Pure and simple. Before I could respond, Eddie knocked on my office door. Boss? Sorry to interrupt, but you've got a visitor. Who? Lieutenant Griggs from the Sheriff's Department. He wants to talk to you about some kind of complaint. Tell him I'll be right out. Maya started gathering up her photos. I should go. Wait. I handed her my business card and wrote my cell number on the back. Call me tonight. We need to talk more about this. Lieutenant Griggs was waiting in the front office, looking uncomfortable in his uniform. He was about 50, with gray hair and the kind of face that had seen too much small-town drama. Danny, we need to talk. What about... Brent Morrison filed a harassment complaint against you. Says you've been following him, taking pictures, sending threatening text messages. I felt Eddie watching from across the room. I sent one text message, and I haven't been following anyone. He's got photos of your truck at the Riverside Motel yesterday morning. It's a public place, Lieutenant. Last I checked, driving on public roads wasn't illegal. No, but harassment is. And if Morrison decides to push this, it could get ugly for you. Griggs looked around the shop, taking in the cars on lifts and the tools scattered across workbenches. Look, Danny, I've known you since you were a kid. You're not a troublemaker, but you're going through a rough patch right now, and rough patches make people do stupid things. Like what? Like letting anger cloud their judgment. Like thinking they can handle problems that are better left to lawyers. So what are you telling me? I'm telling you to be smart. Stay away from Morrison, stay away from the motel, and don't give him any more ammunition. Because if this escalates, you're the one who's going to end up in handcuffs. After Griggs left, Eddie came over to where I was standing. You okay, boss? Peachy. My wife's boyfriend is trying to get me arrested for harassment. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. How do you figure? Because it means he's scared. Guys like Morrison don't file police reports unless they're worried about something. That evening, Maya called as promised. We met at a diner on the outskirts of town, far enough from Millfield's gossip network to have a private conversation. I heard about your visit from the police, she said as we slid into a corner booth. Word travels fast. I have friends in the sheriff's department. The complaint Morrison filed is mostly bullshit, but it shows he's getting nervous. Good. I want him nervous. Maya ordered coffee and a piece of pie. I stuck with coffee, my appetite having disappeared sometime around the moment my wife walked out. Tell me about your marriage, she said. How long were you happy? Maybe the first 5 years. After that, it was just going through the motions. She got promoted, started making more money than me, began running in different circles. And you didn't see the warning signs? I saw them. I just didn't want to believe what they meant. Maya nodded. Brent's good at making women feel like their husbands don't understand them. He's got this whole routine about being a sensitive, successful man who appreciates strong, independent women. Sounds like a load of crap. It is, but it's effective crap. He made me feel like I was settling for less by staying with my ex-boyfriend. Made me believe I deserved better. What happened when you found out he was lying? I confronted him. He denied everything at first, then admitted it, but said he was going to leave his wife for me. When I found out he was saying the same thing to 2 other women, I lost it. Lost it how? Maya's smile was rueful. Let's just say I made some poor choices involving his car and a baseball bat. That's when I lost my job and had to start over. So you've been planning revenge for 2 years? Planning, researching, waiting for the right opportunity? When I heard about you and Carla, I knew it was time. She pulled out a different folder, this one thicker than the first. I've got financial records, phone records, emails, photographs, everything we need to destroy him professionally and personally. What's the plan? First, we expose his pattern of behavior to the State Bar Association. Sleeping with clients is a violation of professional ethics. Second, we make sure his wife finds out about all his affairs, not just Carla. Third, we hit him where it really hurts, his reputation and his bank account. How? Leave that to me. But I'm going to need your help with something. What? I need you to keep him distracted while I put the pieces in place. Can you do that without getting arrested? I thought about Lieutenant Griggs' warning, about the harassment complaint, about all the ways this could go wrong. Then I thought about Carla's text messages, about my so-called friends abandoning me, about the business I'd built being picked apart by lawyers. Yeah, I said, I can do that. Maya reached across the table and shook my hand. Partners? Partners. For the first time since this whole nightmare started, I felt like I wasn't fighting alone.